Wait, my name is Zoha?
No, sorry.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hey. Look at me behind. Nora! Why is there a rainbow behind I'm trying to look for
Axel, I'm sorry I couldn't talk to you.
We can talk. We can talk after. We can talk at like 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
My lab.
Everybody
talk?
here, most of the kids
Mama,
boys
can
have
me and Axel talk at 2?
can't talk to me but talk.
Can me and Axel talk at 2?
That's rain.
Axel? Yes.
But I think
I can't park. Learn.
Axel, do you want to talk at 3?
Oh yeah, we can.
I can't find H. Where's H? O
And I'm gonna play games until 3.
R N. So done. Where? Right here.
Space.
Put your volume down.
No.
4, 1.
Instead of going to the meeting yesterday, I talked to people.
This is the only pet that he's quiet.
Then
Leave them there.
they understand.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good.
Good. Very, very good.
I can show everyone to get more
Hey,
people.
Sam. Are we gonna play it? Sam, 4 o'clock.
Zaid Hussein for Alina. Those are all mine. They're maps I made.
So, Sam, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
He always says that. It's
Yes,
like,
I said yes. Oh my god.
Wrong for that.
No, adorable.
It's wrong.
This
This is so loud.
Okay. Shall we go ahead and get started?
Yes, please mute us.
Wait, am I pinned? Am I pinned?
Okay. Raise your hand if you are getting tired of Zoom. Yes, okay, good. Absolutely. This is not how humans were meant to interact at all. But it's the best we can do. It's better than nothing. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. All right. Before I start reading, let me not forget to mention, if you are a first or a second grader, I have sent you, get the last couple people in here. If you are a first or a second grader, I have sent you an invitation for a lesson tomorrow with the grammar boxes. Raise your hand if you already know about this. First and second graders? Great, okay. If you haven't heard about it, then please go check Google Classroom after Read Aloud so that I can make sure that you are able to come to that lesson. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and get back to the book. So we left off at a very exciting moment. Apple Blossom has fallen through the chimney of the house, and she's all right, but she's woken up the dog, and the dog has barked, and the dog has woken up the people. And Apple Blossom is inside the house and trying to figure out what she should do. And she has just been trying to decide, should she play dead? Because that's what Mama told her to do if she's in danger. But then maybe if she plays dead, she'll still be inside the house and something worse might happen to her. And so she keeps moving. She turns left. She turns right. She spins around. She stays low to the ground, head tucked down. She tries to remember her acting exercises, but not the dying part. Act brave. Act the part of an animal that knows how to escape danger. And then she turns another corner and she's in a new area. She is in the place where the smallest people live. Up ahead, she sees a nest with the littlest monster inside. Next to the nest is a pile of furry animals. Their eyes are open wide, but they don't move. She knows right away these are not real animals. They have no smell. They are fake. They are stuffed cloth. Sorry. The monster coming after her is getting closer. And so Apple Blossom dives into the pile of fake furry animals just before a beam of light sweeps into the room. Apple Blossom does not move. She does not breathe. She stares straight ahead and she waits. She acts like a stuffed fur animal. The monster without much fur on his head stands in the doorway. He holds a light in his hand. This is what makes the shining beam. The hot white light spins around the room, and then it happens. The light sweeps right over Apple Blossom's face. She remembers Mama saying that an actor has to burn inside with outer ease. A famous possum named Chekhov said this. Apple Blossom fixes her face in a smile. She acts fake. She acts frozen. She acts not afraid. She thinks this may be her best acting ever. The monster without much fur on his head stands in front of a second monster who has appeared. The second monster whispers something. Apple Blossom cannot hear. And then both people turn and move back down the passageway. Apple Blossom hears the monsters open the door to the house. Then she hears the monster say, "Aha!" Moments later, the house door can be heard closing. Apple Blossom hears the biggest monster say, "Good boy, Columbo. You heard possums up on the roof. That's what it was, right, boy? I saw them just now." There is something about the tone of the monster's voice that makes the dog get all wiggly. Apple Blossom can hear his tail thrashing against his cage. The monster continues speaking. "Well, you get a treat for that. I saw 2 of the nasty critters." The word treat makes the beast go crazy. The word nasty makes Apple Blossom's heart sink. Apple Blossom can hear the monster opening something in the hoarding area, and then the dog known as Columbo snaps his jaws. She can make out the beast chewing. Then the people issues a command. "Go back to sleep, Columbo. We'll call an exterminator tomorrow." The word hangs in the air. What is an exterminator? Apple Blossom thinks it through. The monster has seen Antonio and Amlet, but they must be safe because he came right back inside. Besides, his teeth are no good for attacking. She has seen the teeth of the people. They have no points. They are flat and square, and not the teeth for doing anything productive. The teeth, like their absence of tails, is another thing that must make people so happy. Unhappy. In the distance, she hears the dog named Columbo smack his lips and make a whining sound. He wants more treat. The treat seems to be all that he's thinking about now. She can tell that he has forgotten she's in the house because she hears the beast settle back down into his cage. He is going back to sleep. Apple Blossom breathes in and breathes out and congratulates herself. She wishes that she could tell her brothers and her sisters, and most of all, Mama Possum, how she just made it past a dog and people. Her heart is pounding so hard that she can feel it in her toes, but she is suddenly more tired than she can remember ever being. There is no choice in the matter. She has to fall asleep. But should she hide? Apple Blossom unties a hat that is on some kind of large pretend people and places it on her own head. Maybe it will make her look as if she belongs. She is surprised by how comfortable the hat is. There is a fake bear wearing a blue garment, and she pulls it off and slips it on. Her own arms fit right through the sleeves, and she is able to close all of the buttons but one. She sees that another of those fake furry creatures has black covers on its feet. She grabs one and pulls, and the funny object comes right off. It doesn't take long before she has her own toes inside both the foot covers. Her transformation is now complete. She snuggles into the pile of stuffed animals, and exhaustion overtakes her. Moments later, she is sound asleep. Chapter 17. Antonio and Amlet scurry away from the house. They move along the edge of the yard, wedge their bodies under a fence, and then scramble up a hill to a pile of dry orange pine needles, where it seems safe. Amlet feels his whole body tense as Antonio wails, "What have we done? This is nothing short of a total fiasco." Amlet's voice is just a whisper. Right. Yes, but what's a fiasco? A fiasco is when your sister falls down a hole into a den of monsters, shouts Antonio. Amlet grits his teeth. I thought so. Yes, a fiasco for sure, but lower your voice. We don't want the whole world knowing we're out here ready for the taking. That would really be a fiasco. Antonio grabs a handful of pine needles and breaks them in frustration over his knee. It's our fault. She fell. We frightened her. Amlet waits for what he hopes is a respectful amount of time and then asks, isn't it a little bit her fault? I mean, she did go up onto the roof, and we did tell her to stay away from the monsters. Antonio snorts out his long, pointy nose, and this sends several of the pine needles airborne. They lodge like pins in Amlet's chest, and he cries out in pain. But Antonio doesn't even say he is sorry. Instead, he scratches the itchy spot on the top of his head and concentrates. No, we did this. She was sitting up there, and we caused her to fall. And now it's going to be on us to try to save her. Amlet's eyes get big. How are we supposed to save her? I mean, really. It's not like I don't care, because I do. I care a lot. But I don't see myself as any kind of hero. It's not a part I rehearsed, and it's not a part I can play. Antonio will have none of it. Heroes don't think of themselves as heroes, Amlet. That's what makes them heroic. We've got to rescue our sister or die trying. Amlet can't stop himself from stammering. Do you mean fake dying or real dying? Are we acting right now or are we serious? Antonio's eyes narrow. We are not acting. And then he says no more. Chapter 18. Her name is Izzy, which is short for Isabella, but no one calls her that. Izzy is an only child. She has long wanted a sister or a brother, and when she was old enough to express this idea in the form of a strong argument, she was given a dog. She tried to name him Pal, since the plan, at least in her mind, was for the animal to be her best pal. But her parents didn't hear her, or at the very least they didn't listen, because before she knew it, the dog was named Columbo. This name sounds to Izzy like a kind of coffee or a wild elephant. Her parents explained that this name makes the dog a detective, but a bumbling one who wears a raincoat, which makes no sense because, of course, the dog doesn't do that. Izzy's parents think this is amusing. She does not understand why. I will just tell you, Mrs. Min will remember this, but there was a TV detective named Columbo. It was a popular TV show when I was younger than you, I think. Yeah, she's nodding, so that's about right. So that's why Columbo is a detective, because that was the name of a detective on TV about 40 years ago. Columbo is a good dog, and Izzy loves him, but it is safe to say the feeling isn't mutual. Columbo's love in life, besides food, which always comes first, is his red ball. He wants to chase that thing for hours and hours, and Izzy doesn't have much interest in throwing a slobbery, wet rubber toy to a dog that will then run in circles. This leaves Izzy to sometimes feel even lonelier about not having a brother and sister than before she got the dog. And this is also because her parents spend a lot of time now on Columbo. Columbo demands that. He wants someone to throw him the red ball 24 hours a day, which of course is not possible. On top of that, he gets his hair all over the furniture, which requires a lot of cleaning. And according to her parents, he can't be trusted. What they mean by this isn't that Columbo can't keep a secret. What they mean is that if food is anywhere within his reach, he will eat it. If you turn your back, Columbo will jump up onto the counter and bring down a plate of cookies. With one gulp, he can easily swallow an entire stick of butter. He has found a way to consume an entire bag of bagels and a 2-pound box of chocolate that came all the way from France. Dogs are supposed to be allergic to chocolate, but not Columbo. The dog is, according to Izzy's grandma, a villain, but no one in the house really thinks of him this way, although they do all admit that Columbo has successfully resisted a lot of training, which is why he sleeps in the crate in the kitchen at night. But it's a dog kennel, and it's supposed to make him feel secure. While Columbo has not turned out to be the pal that Izzy hoped for, it doesn't mean that she has given up on the idea of a close friend in her home that is a pet. She just knows that the dog isn't the answer. It is a Saturday, and that means that the regular routine of getting dressed, eating breakfast, and hurrying for the school bus can be ignored. On the weekends, Izzy's parents get up when they want to, and it's anyone's guess who will wander first into the kitchen and release Columbo from his sleeping crate. The dog is always immediately put outside to do his business, as her mother calls it. Izzy finds the whole idea of a dog doing business amusing. She can imagine Columbo putting on some kind of uniform and attaching a name tag. She sees him talking on a cell phone, using a headset, the way her parents do, even after they get home from work. She likes the idea of a dog sitting at a computer pretending to do business, but actually watching funny videos of other dogs. Maybe Columbo would work in marketing. He loves anything that comes into the house in a brown paper bag. But then again, marketing, which is her father's job, doesn't have anything to do with the grocery store. When she was little, she believed that her father went shopping every day and that someone paid him to do this. She was disappointed to learn that he worked in a tall building downtown and that the marketing he did was for a bank. Izzy's mother also has a job that is hard to understand. She is a chemical engineer. Engineers are people who know how to build things so that they won't fall apart. Izzy knows that math is behind the stuff they do. At least that's how it has been explained to her. So for a long time, Izzy thought that her mom told people what amount of chemical barrels were needed to construct buildings. Izzy didn't understand why anyone would want to make a tall building out of chemical barrels, but she didn't say anything. Then she discovered that that was not what her mom was doing. She was building things made from chemicals, but not buildings. She works in a lab that makes different kinds of shampoo. Izzy was shocked when she finally saw the place. It looked like a kitchen for scientists. Now, as Izzy opens her eyes and raises her arms and stretches, the house is just coming to life. She hears the door open and close to the outside. The young girl kicks off her covers and scrunches up her nose several times, which is how she always starts her day, when she decides that something in the room is different. She senses it. Then she hears it. Izzy stays still and holds her breath. There's a very low sound that she doesn't recognize. She keeps the air in her lungs and continues to listen. The sound is so soft it is almost impossible to hear. It sounds like the lightest snoring in the world, And then a second thing hits her. There is a new smell in her room. Izzy shuts her eyes to concentrate. The odor reminds her of something. It's the smell of her thick wool sweater when it gets wet. Didn't her mom say that smell is like a sheep in the rain? It is a wild animal odor. Didn't they both laugh at that? But there is not a sheep in her room. And there is not a wet wool sweater. Being as quiet as possible, Izzy rolls over onto her right hip. She stares out the window to the hedge in the yard, and then shifts her focus back inside her room. She sees her large pile of stuffed animals alongside her bed. Izzy knows this collection well. She is too old to play with these things, or at least she acts like she is if anyone else is in the room. But she still has a soft spot for all of the toys. Now, as she stares at the mound, she suddenly feels as if her heart has stopped. Because right there in the center of the mound is something that she has never seen before. Just at her side, close enough that she could lean over and touch it, is a real animal. The furry creature has on a bonnet that belongs to an old doll, the blue raincoat from her Paddington bear, and the black boots from her circus monkey. But even dressed this way, there is no mistaking that this animal is alive and asleep and insanely cute. Izzy works hard to keep breathing. How did the little animal get in her room? And why is it sleeping next to her bed? How did it come to be dressed in her toy's clothes? She isn't sure what she should do. Is this some kind of surprise? Did her parents finally understand that Columbo hasn't turned out to be a pal? Is this her real and true pal? And then she looks more intently at the small furry face and realizes she knows this creature. This is the animal she saw outside 2 nights ago. This is the possum that waved to her. And it all makes sense in a new way. The possum has come to be with her. Izzy's first instinct is to go tell her parents. Yet something holds her back. Hadn't her mother seen a small mouse in the garage a few months ago and run in a full-blown panic? Didn't a barrel-chested man named Stauffer come to the house and plug all kinds of holes with pieces of steel wool? Stauffer spoke about rodents and disease, and Izzy's mother was so worried she took notes. Sounds can be heard in the kitchen. Izzy's mother is awake. Her father, too. But the possum does not wake. This possum is really sound asleep. Izzy takes a moment to think. The important thing for now is to keep Columbo out of her room. She feels certain that the dog will be nothing but trouble around her sweet, slumbering friend. So Izzy slides silently out of bed. She grabs her favorite blue sweatshirt, which is slung over the back of the chair by the window, and she heads for the door. Before she leaves her room, she turns to look over her shoulder. An adorable possum with a fuzzy white face, long whiskers, and a bright pink nose is sleeping with her stuffed animals, and it is the greatest thing that has ever happened to her. Chapter 19. Izzy shuts the door to her room and moves quickly down the hall to her mom's office. Sorry. She finds a piece of paper and a pen and writes, "Keep out. This means everyone. Privacy needed today." She then tapes this message to the door. She feels reasonably confident that this will keep her mom and dad from going into her room. Thankfully, Columbo can't open doors. Izzy feels grateful in this one instance that she doesn't have a nosy brother or sister to worry about. She sees her dad first. He is coming in from the backyard with Columbo. The dog looks different, even more agitated than normal. Izzy smiles. "Hey, Dad." Her father answers, "Good morning, Izzy," but then immediately turns back to the dog and says firmly, "Columbo, calm down." Columbo seems to get even more excited. His tail wags, slamming into the wall, and he bolts down the hall, nose to the floor, as if he has been hired to sniff out explosives. All that Izzy can manage to say is, "What's wrong with him?" Her father rolls his eyes. "We had some nighttime pests. Columbo must smell them." He turns in the direction of the dog. Settle down, boy. But Columbo is having none of it. Izzy watches as he runs to the living room and goes straight to the fireplace. He is so excited that he uses his snout to push open the metal screen, and the next thing they know, the dog is standing in the fireplace ashes. That's when Izzy's mom appears from the kitchen. Stop him! But it's too late. Columbo is now thrashing around in the chimney. He puts his paws up onto the back brick wall as his head and upper body disappear. Izzy laughs, but her mom and dad don't think it's so funny. Get him out of there, Alex, please! Izzy's mom is yelling now. Columbo's collar is no longer visible because half of his body is up the chimney. And then he starts barking. The sound of his deep-throated alarm echoes up the brick shaft and adds to the general sense of chaos. And that's when Izzy notices the footprints on the floor. They are small and barely perceptible. They head out of the chimney, not in. It figures that Columbo would be on the trail, but he's going the wrong way. Izzy runs from the room shouting, I'll get a rag. There's a stack of cleaning cloths on the ledge above the washing machine. Izzy grabs a handful, and instead of going back to the living room, where the commotion is only getting louder, she heads straight to her room. On the hardwood floor in the hallway, she can now see the trail of little sooty footprints. Izzy drops down to the floor and rubs them away, moving fast. All the while, she hears her parents in the living room wrestling with the maniac known as Columbo. And for the first time since the dog came into her life, Izzy is thrilled that this animal never follows an order. Chapter 20. Apple Blossom opens her eyes to a room that is bright with light. Fear strikes like lightning and she sits bolt upright. She is locked in a monster house. In the distance, she hears an enormous racket. The people are yelling. The door is shut, but for how long? Will the dog and the people come rushing in? What is she doing out here in the open? This is all wrong. She needs to hide. Apple Blossom tries to scramble out of the nest of fake furry animals, but it isn't easy because she is wearing the thick blue garment. Plus, she has crazy contraptions on her feet. She grabs one of the foot covers and pulls it off, throwing it hard against the room. She isn't able to get the other cover off. The hat is still on her head, and the blue garment now feels tight and constricting. There isn't time to deal with any of it. Hurry, hurry, hurry! The words pound in her head. Where to go? Where to hide? Under the little monster's nest? Too obvious. Under the big wooden box against the wall? Too tight of a squeeze. Apple Blossom is running lines of dialogue, but with herself. She races awkwardly around the room, only one foot cover on, the hat flapping over her eyes, and the wooden buttons on the blue garment rubbing along the floor. And then, in a very dizzy state, she sees a tall basket tucked into an alcove in the corner. There are all kinds of things hanging from the rim of the straw contraption. Suddenly, the words of Mama Possum come back to her. True performers trust their gut instinct. When she first heard this, she had no idea what it meant. Where was your gut? And what was instinct? Mama Possum explained that your gut is the pit of your stomach, and instinct is a natural response that you know without knowing you know. And if you are a born performer in the animal kingdom, like a possum, it tells you how to play a scene. Instinct also tells you never to eat a wild mushroom, or touch a black spider with a red belly, or trust a porcupine. Apple Blossom decides that her gut instinct is telling her to get into the tall straw basket in the alcove, and so she scrambles straight to it. She grips the sides of the cylinder and it moves. She is suddenly afraid that the basket will tip over, but it only wobbles as Apple Blossom climbs to the top and flings herself inside. She tumbles down through layers of cloth, soft and sweet-smelling things that she feels certain have been wrapped around the littlest monster. And then she finds herself at the bottom of the basket. But not a moment too soon. Okay. Because suddenly the door opens and the littlest monster enters the room. Apple Blossom stares out of a gap in the basket as the people quickly closes the door behind her. She goes right to the pile of fake furry animals. Apple Blossom watches as the little monster sucks in her breath with surprise and shouts, "Oh no!" She begins hunting frantically. She throws off all of the covers on her sleeping nest. She looks underneath. Apple Blossom is relieved that she isn't hiding there. The people then gets to her feet and keeps searching. She tosses all the fake fur animals as she lifts everything she can get her hands on. The mini monster is looking for her, and then she stops. Apple Blossom sees that the monster's eyes have landed on the Blackfoot cover that she threw across the floor. The people is staring at the foot cover, and Apple Blossom sees that there are tears of sadness in her eyes. They spill down her cheeks and fall to the floor. And it's not a performance, because she doesn't know she has an audience. Chapter 21. Izzy can't believe the little animal is gone. She tries to stay calm. She will keep searching the room very, very carefully. She starts in the corner and goes inch by inch. She looks under cushions and all around her big chair. She moves her furniture, including the floor lamp and the bookcase. She uncovers 6 dead bugs, a yellow sock, a hair ribbon, and a paperclip. The last place Izzy looks is her closet. She moves her shoes. She pushes back every hanger, even though she can't imagine how the possum could get up onto the clothes. She searches the pockets of her lime green winter jacket. Then she moves her laundry basket. She lifts the top. She sees the pants and shirts and underwear and socks that she wore all week to school. She puts her hands in and lifts the clothing in one big clump. Nothing at the bottom of the basket. She doesn't see the possum holding onto a pair of jeans. The mess of stuff does seem heavy, but she is tired of searching, and so she drops it all back into the basket and slumps onto the floor. She can't contain her disappointment. One minute she had the most fantastic new pet, and now the little creature is gone. And so are the bonnet for her doll, one of the boots for her circus monkey, and Paddington's raincoat. So it turns out the possum is a burglar. Izzy picks up the little black boot and holds it in her hand. It's like Cinderella, only all mixed up. She slips the boot into her pocket and makes her way to the kitchen, where a very wet Columbo is rolling around on the floor in a pile of old towels. The room smells like burnt toast and wet dog, which isn't great. Izzy takes a box of cereal from the counter and slides into the chair next to her father, mumbling, "So that was crazy. Columbo got pretty excited." Izzy's mother pours herself a cup of coffee and sits down as well. "He smelled a wild animal. He knew that thing was on the roof last night. He's smarter than he looks." Izzy doesn't say that the dog is no pet detective, even if he is named Columbo. "What kind of animal do you think was up there?" Izzy's mom sips her coffee before answering, "Oh, we know. Your father saw them." Izzy's spoonful of cereal stops at the midpoint between her mouth and the bowl. She turns to her father. "What did you see?" Okay, Axel? Where is Axel? Axel? Are you trying to send me a fax?
No, that
Okay.
wasn't me. No, I don't know what happens.
Okay, whatever that was, we don't need to do that anymore. That's going to confuse things. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Accidental fax. All right. She realizes she sounded too excited because her father touches her arm and says, "Oh, it's okay, sweetie. We're calling the exterminator." Izzy's mom adds, your father saw possums last night. Izzy exhales. So you woke up last night and saw a possum in the house? Her mother is alarmed. Goodness, no! Her father explains, I went outside with a flashlight after Columbo woke us up. Spotted 2 by the chimney. Not big ones, probably nothing more than babies, but so ugly, like rats, only worse. I don't think possums are ugly, Izzy says, annoyed. That's because you've never seen one. They are just the worst looking things ever. Izzy starts to speak again and then stops. Her little possum friend is anything but ugly. The creature has dark, shining eyes and the most perfect nose with a pink tip. She is furry and fuzzy and smells like a wet wool sweater, but she will keep all of this to herself. Izzy continues to chew her cereal and then finally says, are you sure you need to call the exterminator? Possums are nomadic. They move from place to place. We studied them at school. Izzy's mom is impressed by her daughter's knowledge and her smile is one of relief. Really? I didn't know that. So they aren't right now building some kind of nest under the house? Izzy grins. No, and they don't build nests. I bet they heard Columbo, and that's all it took to figure out that this was no place to call home. Her parents look pleased. Izzy glances over at the large, wet dog rolling on his back. He's in some kind of battle with a towel. She sees dog hair everywhere. Columbo is a shedder. That, she silently thinks, is really his greatest skill. Izzy puts her cereal bowl in the dishwasher, then waits until her mom and dad are both out of the kitchen before she removes a small plate from the cupboard. She goes to the refrigerator and takes out cheddar cheese, 4 grapes, and 2 small carrots. She gets a sesame cracker from the box on the counter and then adds a piece of chocolate from the secret stash in the back of the tinfoil drawer. She pours grape juice into a little cup her mother uses for hard-boiled eggs. She carries all of this into her bedroom and closes the door. Even though it appears that her little friend is gone, there is still the possibility that the possum is hiding somewhere. And food might be just the thing to draw her out. Izzy gets dressed and goes to the living room where she tells her mother she wants to visit the library. Her parents are always happy when their daughter asks to spend time with books. So after the kitchen is cleaned up and after Izzy has made sure her "Keep Out" sign is prominently posted on her door, her mom drives her down to the public library on Jensen Road. Izzy is intent on doing research. She wants to find out everything there is to know about possums. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I have some questions in the chat. Carissa, can you hear me now? Yes? Is that a thumb? Okay, good, great. Glad that worked out. And Nora would like to know what a fax is. So I don't know how it happened, but Axel accidentally sent me a fax, which is a way before we had the internet and before we had email. This was a way to send a message quickly. I know it's hard for you guys to imagine a time before email, but in those days, you actually either had to mail a letter or you had to call someone on the phone if you needed to tell them more quickly. And then the fax machine was invented, which used the telephone line. And so I could write a letter on a piece of paper and I could put it in a fax machine at my house and send it to Mrs. Min. And then Mrs. Min's fax machine would print the information out for her to read. And it used the telephone. So people don't use them as much anymore, hardly at all now, because we have email and we can send you documents and information via email now. And so that's what a fax is. F-A-X is how you spell that. Let me see what other questions I have here. A couple people got kicked out, but I see they got back in, so that's good. Svea would like to know if I'm going out for walks. Where are you, Svea? Let me see if I can find you. can't unmute you, Svea. There we go. Are you just curious about me and if I'm getting outside enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not as much as I should be. I'm trying to be better about getting outside a little more. So I'm trying to schedule a break in the middle of the day where I eat my lunch and then I take a walk outside at lunchtime right before read aloud. But today, when it was time for me to go take my walk, it started raining. So at my house anyway, it was raining. So I opened my doors in my kitchen and I sat by the screen and I enjoyed the birds from inside. But no, I'm trying to be outside more. How about you? Are you getting outside enough?
When it's warm, we go outside for pretty much the whole day.
Okay, good.
And if there's stuff growing, like we have a whole bunch of daffodils. We have mixed up colors of daffodils in the front.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Front
awesome.
is right here. So.
Yes, let's see your daffodils, Svea.
They're kind of right there, but
Ooh, pretty. Looks like you're gonna have a lot of good stuff in there as the
we have
season goes
tulips.
on. Which reminds me, did you guys see the phenology assignment that I posted? So there is a video for you to watch if you want to learn about phenology, which is really just a fancy name for tracking the plants and how they grow over the course of a season in your climate. So you can watch the video and then there's a little chart there for you to use to track the plants that are growing in your area. Yes, Ada.
So like, do you have a due date for the phenology?
Phenology, I cannot recall if I put a due date on that or if I just made it a material that you could use. You can certainly check Google Classroom and find that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to remind people that your limericks are due tomorrow. So if you have not yet sent me your limerick, or multiple limericks, please do that between today and tomorrow because I can't wait to see them. And I also posted the assignment for writing a story from the perspective of an animal. So that's up there as well. Hopefully you guys have found that. And I think that's due May 1st. It's probably all due, honestly, the phenology too. I think I put everything for May 1st that I posted yesterday. Henry, I'm trying to unmute you. Can you? Yeah, there you go. Hello, sir.
I was gonna say that limericks kind of sound like limerips.
They do. That's a funny word, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and Danny. Hi.
I don't want you to stop the story. It's so interesting.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know.
I also have a garden, and it's growing nicely.
Oh, look at that. Beautiful. That does look good. Thank you for showing me.
Welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute you so that you can visit a bit before we close down.
Do I do this? So I'll see you after the meeting.
Bye, guys. Bye. 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 Tomorrow. I realize.